Okay, so way back in 1995, my neighbor who used to own well actually they still do, have a Thai flying factory in Thailand, she got a letter from a missionary in Thailand who they were very good friends with. And that missionary wanted to open an orphanage for HIV positive children in Thailand. But she needed $17,000 to do it, so she sent a letter to my neighbor and said, you know what, do you have any rich friends? Because I made a deal with God that if he gave me this one orphan, that I would open an orphanage. I said, can I have the letter? And I wrote the neighbor back and I said, you don't know me, but I'm Faith's friend, and I'm gonna raise you that $17,000. We baked tons and tons and tons of pies. And we sold them and we raised $23,000 our first year. And we were able to open our first home in Thailand for HIV kids. And then John and I got the opportunity when we went there to run the home because the couple had to go on furlough. And while we were there, I said to John, you know, this is what I was created to do. This is what I was born to do. When we got back to Canada, we thought, you know, we wanted to help more kids. So we decided to go to Africa.
We're on the boundary of two townships. One is called Chipukulusu and the other one's called Nkwazi. And this is one of the shanty slum where most of our kids come from. So without education, these kids are stuck in a very vicious cycle of poverty. They won't even be able to get a job as a clerk. So they'll end up doing manual labor, and life is very, very difficult for their kids. And the water, they have to go out to find a creek, carry the water back. There's no running water in these homes. You can see some of the latrines here. There's no kitchens. They cook outside on charcoal. So it's extremely difficult. And with the HIV epidemic, it's wreaking havoc in these communities.
And then in 2005, we got antiretrovirals, which are the drugs that HIV people take. In Canada, people no longer need to die from HIV if they live a healthy lifestyle and they take the medication. They can be undetectable, they can get married, they can have children. So we thought, you know what, that's what we want to do for our kids. So the vision shifted from being a home for children that are going to die to a vision of giving children a life that's going to give them a future.
And people say, well, with the ARVs that we have nowadays, why are people still dying? And the ARVs are free in this country, but the lab work is not. It's very, very costly for them. And the other thing about ARVs is you need to have a good nutrition. You need to live healthy. You need to have clean water. You need to be able to sleep properly and have a healthy lifestyle. Well, look around. This is a very difficult place to live healthy, to eat healthy, to drink healthy water. So it's we find a lot of orphan children. We find a lot of sick children here. And life is desperate.
So in the beginning, our vision was just to give children the best possible life in the short time they had, and to teach the caregivers how to love and hold these kids while they are dying. We believe that every child deserved to be loved while they were dying. They deserve to be held. Somebody once said to me, you know, well, how do you hold dying children, Susan? They said, isn't that hard to keep holding them while they died? And I said, no. The Bible says that God is the father of the fatherless. So to me, it was such a great privilege that God allowed us to physically hand him his children. So now our first objective is to raise children to love and serve God. And our second objective is to give them an education, to give them the tools they need to be whatever God's called them to be, whether it's a teacher, a doctor, a welder, whatever it is, a pastor. We want to be able to give them those tools. And with the education system here in high school having 60 to 90 kids per class, and our kids having a rough start to life, we knew we had to build our own school to give them a good quality education. So we decided to buy land and build a school. And I remember the first person I mentioned it to, they thought, Susan, you know what? You only have a college diploma in business administration. How are you going to build a school? And I said, that's the beauty of it. I don't have to. Because if this is God's project, God will have to build the school.
I'm Patricia Sanjiva, the principal of Grace Academy. And Grace Academy is a unique school in Ndola. These children are HIV positive and they are vulnerable, meaning that their families couldn't support them, like take them to school or provide medication. So Seeds of Hope has come in to help these children. You count 5. We know if we just touch one life, we have touched many lives. Through them, they're going to be a blessing to their families.
That's what we are. We now have almost 150 kids. We raise them to love and serve God. Our first graduating class, we have 1 girl in nursing, 1 studying engineering, 1 getting a Bachelor of Education, and 1 studying medicine. We had our first graduate finish school, and he is a welder, and he just got a job. As somebody once used an analogy of a gem. When you see a gemstone, it's actually raw, but God takes these stones and he polishes them and he makes them into a beautiful gem. And so that's what we want to do. We want to take these kids that society doesn't want, that everybody is shunned, and we're going to make them into, you know, the teachers and pastors and engineers. And God's going to use them to bring him glory. That's what Seeds of Hope's all about. That, you know, that's our deepest prayer, is that these kids' lives will bring God glory. Every time we've needed someone, God has brought that person at the exact time that we needed them. And it's always confirmation that God is in this project.